I want you to try something right now, assuming you aren't driving, of course.
Yeah.
Just look down at your own hands for a second.
Always a good disclaimer.
Right, yeah. So, turn them over. They look pretty solid, right? Like flesh, bone, skin, all the normal stuff. But what if I told you that you are actually looking at a walking, breathing volume of programmable liquid crystal?
It sounds completely crazy.
It does. And even wilder, what if every single word you are speaking, or even just thinking right now, is actively redesigning the cellular structure of those hands?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like straight up science fiction, but we're talking about a very literal, measurable reality here. The human body is incredibly malleable to acoustic input, far more than we consciously realize.
Exactly. You are doing it right now.
Yeah.
The very thoughts in your head are emitting these micro frequencies that tell your cells how to fold. Today, we are stripping away the mystical veneer of ancient rituals to reveal the hard acoustic engineering beneath them.
Which is such a fascinating way to frame it.
It really is. So we're diving deep into the intersection of wave physics and what's often just dismissed as Eastern superstition. Our mission for this deep dive is to bridge that gap. We want to show how ancient talismans and spoken spells are actually early forms of biological audio recordings, and give you the tools to apply this vibrational alchemy to your own life.
It requires a pretty profound shift in perspective, to be honest. For centuries, we've just rigidly separated the mystical from the mechanical.
Right, like magic is over here, science is over there.
Exactly. But when you analyze the specific geometry of these ancient practices through the lens of modern physics, that separation completely collapses. You start to realize that what we called magic was really just an intuitive grasp of acoustic resonance.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how powerful our own words are, we first have to prove that sound isn't just invisible noise. It has an actual physical shape.
And that's a hard concept for people to grasp at first.
It is, because we treat sound like this abstract byproduct of movement. Like, you clap your hands, it makes a noise, the noise fades, and that's just it.
Right, it's just gone.
But if we look at the classic Chladni plate experiment, that whole abstraction vanishes instantly. It's like sound becomes a 3D printer for reality.
That's a perfect analogy. The Chladni plate is, it's this foundational demonstration in wave mechanics. You take a rigid, completely flat metal plate, scatter a chaotic, random layer of fine sand all over the top of it, and then you drag a violin bow hard across the edge of the metal.
And the second that screeching vibration hits the metal, the sand grains just instantly organize themselves. It's mind-blowing to watch.
It really is. But what's fascinating here is the math of how they organize. They don't just bounce around randomly. The sound waves create standing waves across the plate.
So they're migrated to specific zones.
Yes, exactly. Areas of intense vibration violently push the sand away, and areas of zero vibration, which we call nodes, give the sand a place to settle.
So the intersecting waves are basically canceling each other out at those nodes.
Right. And at lower frequencies, the standing waves create simple geometric shapes, like basic circles or thick crosses. But as you pitch the frequency higher and higher, the standing waves become incredibly intricate.
The sand gets pushed into these complex mandalas, right? Like 12-pointed stars and perfectly interlocking lattices.
Exactly. It's organizing chaotic matter into perfect symmetry.
So sound isn't just a byproduct. It is the invisible architect giving orders to matter. But, I mean, sand on a metal plate is a pretty dense, crude medium. If acoustic geometry can force heavy sand into a star, what happens when you introduce those same frequencies to a highly sensitive medium, like water?
That's where we see the transition from basic physics to something that starts to look profoundly ancient. Water is 1,000 times more sensitive than sand.
Oh, easily.
So when modern researchers used a hydroscope, which is essentially a high-tech device that captures acoustic resonances dynamically in liquids, they decided to record the fundamental chant of OM.
The sacred OM chant.
Yes. And the results are just staggering.
Yeah, I've looked at the visual data from those tests in the source stock. They play that deep, resonant chant directly into the water, and the liquid forms this perfect, highly stable circle. It has a clear center point surrounded by symmetrical, interlaced petals radiating outward.
It's a complex, three-dimensional geometric structure just vibrating right there in the liquid.
And here's the craziest part. That specific hydroscope image is functionally identical to the Sri Yantra mandala.
It's 99% identical.
Which is this geometric symbol carved into stone walls in India and Tibet over 3,000 years ago.
Right. Over 3 millennia.
But wait, how does that even work? I mean, seeing a waves effect on water in a modern lab is one thing, But we're talking about prehistoric monks sitting in dark caves, supposedly drawing the exact physical shape of a sound wave, thousands of years before we had microscopes or electronic monitors.
It is wild to think about.
How do they translate a chant into a perfectly scaled visual blueprint? Did they just guess the physical geometry of the universe and get astronomically lucky?
What's fascinating here is that it definitely wasn't a guess. When we examine the neurological states achieved by these practitioners during extreme deep meditation, we see sustained, high-amplitude, gamma brainwave activity.
So their brains are operating on a completely different level.
Entirely. In these hyper-focused states, the normal neurological boundaries between sensory processing regions in the brain begin to dissolve. They achieve a profound state of induced synesthesia.
Okay, so their auditory cortex and visual cortex are essentially cross-wiring.
Precisely. They aren't just hearing the chant with their ears. Their brain is simultaneously processing that exact acoustic frequency as visual data. They are literally seeing the sound as nets of light, spirals, and interlocking triangles.
Oh, wow. So the ancient symbols, the mandalas, the yantras, they aren't superstitions or just random abstract art.
Not at all. They are literal X-rays of the universe's blueprint. They were physically documenting the architecture of frequency.
That is just, wow. If these masters were transcribing the physical shape of sound, it totally changes how we have to view their physical relics.
It really does.
Take a traditional paper talisman, for example.
Yep.
Usually you see one of these things, yellow paper, red ink, all these jagged, sweeping lines, and you just dismiss it as a superstitious drawing meant to ward off ghosts or whatever.
Right, just cultural artwork.
But under the lens of wave physics, it's not a drawing at all. It's a recording. It's an ancient circuit board.
It is a highly precise biotechnology process. Creating a talisman isn't about being artistic. First, the priest has to enter that state of absolute stillness we just talked about.
To silence the conscious mind, right? To remove any stray neural frequencies.
Exactly. Only then does the spoken mantra begin. The spoken mantra provides the precise frequency, and the priest's body acts as a transducer.
They're converting invisible sound waves in the throat directly into kinetic energy in the hand.
Every curve, every sharp angle on that paper is dictated by the pitch and intensity of the chanted mantra. There are no decorative lines on a talisman. It is pure data.
Breaking down that waveform data is amazing. Like the spirals, those correspond to sine waves, the fundamental oscillation.
Yep.
And the jagged, lightning-like zigzags map to high-frequency pulses, which the actual data transmission. And those heavy, dark ink dots are the nodes, the energy anchors.
Just like the sand gathering in the quiet zones on the Chladni plate.
Exactly. And the process of locking that data into the paper is so specific, the ritual almost always ends with a sudden, forceful kinetic action. Like a sharp shout like, "on," or a heavy foot stomp.
They call it the sealing process.
Right, but physically it's the equivalent of hitting save on a file, isn't it?
It literally is. You are generating a massive spike of kinetic energy that locks that specific resonance structure into the material before the ambient environment can degrade the signal.
Okay, but what about the materials? Because if this is an engineering process, the hardware has to matter. Why is it always red ink and yellow paper? Is that just for aesthetics?
Not at all. It's about conductivity. The traditional red ink is made from Cinnabar, which is mercury sulfide.
A heavy metal.
Exactly. It's highly conductive, perfect for storing energetic charge. And the yellow paper represents the central spectrum of visible light for optimal transmission.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. So the Talisman is basically a primitive USB drive or a biological battery.
A frozen recording of acoustic data, yes.
But even if it is a frozen recording, it doesn't have a speaker. It doesn't plug into a wall. So how does a passive piece of paper physically change the energy of an entire room?
That's where we have to introduce the law of resonance. Think of an acoustic guitar. If you have two guitars sitting in a room and they're tuned to the exact same pitch, if you pluck the low E string on guitar A, the low E string on guitar B across the room will begin to vibrate and hum all on its own without anyone touching it.
Right, sympathetic resonance.
Yeah.
Because they hear the same structural tension.
Exactly. Now apply that to a room. A room isn't empty. It's a chaotic soup of invisible ambient wave, energy radio frequencies, human electromagnetic fields, whatever.
So the Talisman is like a passive antenna.
It's Wi-Fi for the soul. It filters that ambient soup, catches compatible frequencies based on its geometric ink structure, and broadcasts a literal password of tranquility into the space.
It naturally filters out dissonance and creates coherence. That is incredible. But this violently shifts the focus to something else entirely. If a paper in Cinnabar can store acoustic energy and change a room, what happens to the human body?
Well, the human body is approximately 70% water.
Right. And if Cinnabar can store a frequency, water is the absolute master storage medium in the universe. We saw that with the Hydroscope.
Water captures information perfectly. Modern liquid crystal experiments show this beautifully. When water is exposed to harmonious sounds like classical music or words spoken with affection, it crystallizes into sparkling, highly symmetrical diamond shapes.
I've seen those photos. They look like complex snowflakes.
But when that exact same water is exposed to curses, screaming, or intensely negative vocalizations, the molecular bonds can't sustain a lattice. They shatter. When frozen, it looks like a chaotic, dark, jagged sludge.
Which brings us to the black magic of complaining.
It's a terrifying concept when you break down the physics.
It really is, because when a person sits there, sighs heavily, and says, I am so unlucky, or I'm always tired, or this is impossible, they aren't just venting, they are literally casting a dark spell on themselves.
Through bone conduction.
Exactly. Those low-frequency sounds travel directly through their jaw, their bones, their blood. They're forcing the billions of water cells in their own body to restructure into that jagged geometry of suffering.
You don't need an enemy to curse you. Your own vocal cords are doing the job perfectly.
It's like walking around as a 24/7, unpowered down broadcast tower that is constantly self-hexing.
It's passive self-sabotage on a cellular level.
So what does this all mean for us? If we are doing this to ourselves constantly, how do we fix it?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it breaks down to a terrifying but deeply empowering reality. You are the priest. Your spoken words are the brush, your repetitive thoughts are the ink, and your cellular structure is the paper.
We are the living talisman.
We are. And we can pivot from passive self-sabotage to actively architecting our own success.
By using vibrational alchemy in our daily lives.
Exactly. Look at people who are highly successful or people who just seem to be always lucky. They share a very specific habit. They fiercely protect their audio input and output.
They practice acoustic hygiene.
Right. They avoid tragic music. They walk away from toxic, complaining conversations. They don't marinate their cells in chaotic frequencies.
And they curate their output too.
Yeah.
By speaking words of gratitude, saying things like, thank you, or I can handle this. They aren't just, being positive.
No, it's not superficial psychology. They are physically vibrating their internal water into perfect, symmetrical, sacred geometry. They are literally turning their bodies into magnets that resonate with prosperity.
It completely validates all those ancient texts, doesn't it? Like the Bible says, in the beginning was the Word. And the ancient Vedas say, Nada Brahma, which means the world is sound.
It all points to the exact same truth. Modern science just calls it string theory now.
Oh, right. The idea that the fundamental building blocks of reality are just vibrating loops of energy.
Precisely. Matter is just music slowed down. Words literally create reality.
This raises such a massive question about how we move through the world. It means magic was never about the yellow paper on the wall.
No, it was always about the biological technology inside the human body. Magic isn't superstition, it's just science waiting for us to catch up and name it.
What a journey this has been. I mean, we started with sand dancing on metal plates. We looked at ancient monks using their bodies as biological recording studios to make talismans, and we arrived at this incredible realization that our own 70% water bodies are constantly being programmed by our daily vocabulary.
It's a lot of responsibility, but it gives you total control over your own frequency.
It does. Which leaves you, the listener, with one final lingering thought to mull over today. Think about the very last conversation you had before hitting play on this deep dive. Based purely on the words you used, what exact geometric shape did you just carve into the water of your own heart? Was it a masterpiece of peace or a scribble of chaos? Speak with intention. Your cells are always listening.